So that's going to save you anywhere from $500 to $1,000 a month all day. And that's the whole point, is do it yourself, do it the right way, and save money at the same time.
Welcome back to another episode of the Skid Steer Nation podcast. As always, I am your host, Ryan Deemer. This episode is brought to you by none other than Skid Steer Nation. If you are in the market for high-quality American-made attachments for your skid steer, visit skidsteernation.com. You can see our whole collection of products. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out and give us a call. Well, with that out of the way, I'm excited for today's episode. I've got a young man named Zack with me today. He's based out of Tennessee. He's just 21 years old, and he's already got 5 years of experience and one hell of a story to go along with that. His company that he owns is called 316 Excavating. And Zack, welcome to the show, and thanks for being here today.
Yes, sir. So my name is Zack Barulli. I started out with a lawnmower and have built it up to doing some very, very high dollar excavation projects all over the country. And we'll hop into a little bit more about me and what we're doing with our group and all that stuff here, and we'll get going.
Awesome, man. So a lawnmower, how old were you when you were cutting grass?
So I dropped out of school the earliest that I could, and I got my first lawnmower. I sold my first ever pickup truck that I had, and I had bought myself a lawnmower. And me and my best friend at the time, James, we started mowing lawns. And our first ever project was actually, we landed a commercial contract on a 50,000 square foot building that we did everything from the grass to the roof on. That was our first ever job we ever did. I mowed the first lawn the same night I bought the lawnmower. And from there, we started getting some larger projects. We would go, and now we were doing pavers, we were doing mulch, anything that we could get our hands on for $1. If it was anything from, we had painting crews. Our first setup that we started, we were painting for the school Yale in New Haven, Connecticut, the Taft building, a couple other places. We took upon a lot of subcontractor work, anything that we could to make a buck.
And when did you start dialing in your mindset so that instead of doing anything to make a buck, that you started migrating into excavation?
So our first ever excavation job was from a lawn customer, and they had a serious wet problem in their backyard. They asked us, hey, are you guys able to fill our yard up, put a drainage system in? And we had never once ever done anything to do with machines. I had ran a skid steer at a younger age, but I sort of jumped in head first. I found a rental company local to me that was willing to rent to us because I was obviously under 18. They brought the machine out for us, and I had a one-day rental to get this job done. It was for about $3,000. We moved, I believe, 80 yards worth of dirt that day. We did probably about 180 feet worth of trenching. And we got that job done in one day. And ever since that moment, I knew, hey, this is what I want to do. Instead of cutting $50 lawns every day, I'd like to do skid steer and excavation work and bigger stuff like that.
Nice. So then when you focused your attention on excavating, what was your growth pattern for that? Instead of doing painting jobs and cutting and maintenance programs, and you were like, nope, we're going to focus on excavating. What type of a growth pattern did you see for yourself?
So when we first started out, and we realized how easy it was for us to get these dirt jobs and stay in one place and make higher revenue, our goal with it was really, hey, let's get a mini and a skid steer. Let's start doing it full time. We sold the lawnmower. We took the money we had from the lawnmower and some other money saved. We put it down on our first skid steer. We bought a 277B from a family friend. It was a very low hour machine, about 1,200 hours in 2004. We got an extremely good deal on it. We worked that machine every day that we possibly could. We started getting to do commercial dirt. We were doing in people's parking lots. We were doing drainage systems. That was mainly our specialty. Were French drains, roof drains, all kinds of drainage systems were our main gig, but we did a lot of stuff like that.
Awesome, man. And then when did you expand into large projects and get outside of just drainage?
So we decided when COVID hit in 2020 that we would pretty much go out to Colorado. I was friends with Casey Steed at the time. His brother owns Elevated Excavating in Colorado. They offered us the ability to come out there and learn everything start to finish when it came to dirt. So I wanted to learn the commercial sector and aspect. So I wanted to work for them for about 5 months. I started out as a laborer and a ground hand. And pretty much I basically got everything situated and learned everything from being on the rake all the way up to learning exactly how to run every piece of equipment you could really think of. And then I went and worked for a larger company as well. And I really learned the ground all the way up to the operators, see everything from reading surveys, reading grade stakes, GPS, you name it, anything and everything you could think of. I was trying to get my hands on knowledge wise for when I took it to start my own business again.
I love it, man. And that's something that I always think more people need to do. Like, especially the younger guys, like they want to go out and start their own company. It's so advantageous to go work even for free if you have to, but go work with somebody with the experience to kind of get that mentorship, to get a little bit of that baseline knowledge. So that way, everything you do isn't from the scratch learning experience on the fly. Just minimize the mistakes and the time loss and go from there and have that good person there to teach you on the way. So kudos to you for doing that, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And I went and worked for Republic Services, which they're the trash company, landfills. I worked in a landfill for about 3.5, 4 months. I was there hired on as an operator, the youngest operator Republic Services ever had at 18. And their goal for me was to eventually take over and be a head at the landfill itself. But for me, I wanted to get as much runtime as I could. So I found a company that was strictly going to put me in a machine all the time and allow me to run. I was running 349s, D8Ts, 336s. I was running 740, 745Bs, anything and everything on the bigger side of dirt. I was sort of running and doing all kinds of new stuff and interesting stuff. So it was good for seat time.
That's awesome. And then when did you start 316 Excavating?
316 Excavating came right after we started. It started immediately after I quit my job at the landfill. So I teamed up with another younger guy at the time. He was 18. He had a landscaping company where he was doing about $5 to $6 million a year. When I stepped in, about 40 employees. We came to the table with a lot of estimating tools. We knew the numbers. My best friend James, that I had been in business with before, he was a lead construction estimator for the same company I worked for, doing all the actual excavation. He was the one behind the computer doing all the actual estimating portion. So we came together collectively, all of us teamed up. We started landing projects that were more on the hardscape side of excavation. So we were doing bouldering, retaining walls, big dollar, big money projects in the mountains of Colorado. We served everywhere from Estes Park all the way to Georgetown. And that was our service area all throughout Netherland and above Boulder. And we tried to look for those high dollar projects. And that's always what we targeted. At the time, we were doing fiberglass pools with his landscaping company. We were doing all kinds of stuff, but I stayed strictly on the dirt side with boulder retaining walls and doing land infrastructure and like utilization of land. So people would buy bare land and we do everything else.
That's fantastic, man. So you're not in Colorado now though, are you?
No, I'm not. So that business itself, and just like any of the listeners out there, you guys are going to make mistakes. You're going to have learning experiences, and that business and business partner were definitely an experience. He was very debt positive. He wanted to finance as much as he can, leverage himself as much as he can. And I'm the complete opposite. I like to own stuff. I like to be very cash positive and just not have a lot of money out on overhead for debt on machines. And we had all brand new equipment. We had about 8 pieces of brand new CAT equipment, 308, 289, 259s, and a bunch of other stuff, 304. And we had 4 guys, and it was a really good show. But with our disagreements and stuff like that, we decided to part ways. And when I went my own way, that's when I relocated to Tennessee, because I want to be able to work year round and really be able to step it up on not having, because our service time up there for our service area was about 7 months a year.
Okay. Yeah, it makes a big difference, especially if that's what your specialty's in. Then finding an area, if you're able to relocate, find an area that you can do it year round. Find a state where people are there's growth, not decline. Like I live in Illinois, so there's a decline, not a growth. And so yeah, that's smart on your end. So you're in the Chattanooga area.
Yes, sir. I specifically went to Chattanooga just because it's a very growing portion of our country, just as Nashville is as well. But in Chattanooga, I do a lot of stuff other guys will not touch. Like, for example, in the last project that we did recently, we're doing a couple Airbnb developments. So I'm GCing one that is in Arkansas that is about $1.5 million job. And then the one in Tennessee is about a $3 million job. And up there, we just put in all the septics. We have 2 miles of road up there, but all the septic systems are physically sitting on a face of a 200-foot cliff. It took us months to get them approved. It took us a lot to get the tank set in, a lot to get the actual system set. And I was told it's one of the most difficult septic systems ever set in the mountains of Tennessee.
Wow. That's pretty awesome, man. So I think what I'm hearing for an overall theme with you is that hustle and determination always win.
For sure.
And I preach that too. Like sitting at home wondering about what to do versus going out there and actually making some mistakes. Go make some mistakes. Go try some new things. Like go out and be out there. Opportunities don't find you sitting at home. They find you when you're out and about working.
They do. And I would say a lot of it is luck for sure. But the more that you're working hard and fighting towards that goal, the more you're going to find yourself getting lucky. And that's what I've noticed. And I really enjoy that. It's nice to get in those moments where you're like, holy moly, we bid 75 townhomes recently. We have a verbal agreement on that project as of now. We're waiting on permitting and all that stuff. And we're really hoping that we land that project because that will be the biggest job that we've ever touched. And definitely we have a lot of people that are willing to help us with all the mass utility, all that stuff there. So it's been an interesting ride. We've always done bigger number jobs. Like even from when I started out, I was always try to stay around that $10,000 to $20,000 job, and eventually got to the 30. You break windows, so you get 30,000, and then the next thing you're at 40,000. It's 100,000 next before you know it, and it's pretty crazy to see what. Just walking around and saying, hey, this is who I am and this is what I do for work, and not being afraid to put yourself out there, even though sometimes people take that off as being cocky or trying to flaunt the things that you're doing. Where in a lot of the cases, me doing that has caused it's created some of the best relationships that I could have ever created. Some of the people that are lifelong friends and lifelong business partners of mine.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a fine line between confidence and cocky.
For sure.
And I find that the people that aren't putting themselves out there in risk opportunities for growth, they definitely move the line into confidence and call it cocky.
For sure.
So, but the ones that are actually hustling, working, and doing well, like they understand the difference. Like, hey, this kid's got a lot of confidence. Like he might be a smidge cocky, but it's probably closer to the confidence line than he's not just being outlandishly cocky. So, yeah, but again, like if you don't have confidence when you're bidding a project, it shows. Like the customer sees it, feels it, hears it, and they're going to subconsciously push away from you.
Yep. And that's something that we've always strove to, like, we really try to step away and be a lot different than anybody else when it comes to our estimation, like presentation. So when we send out an estimate, we're not just going to send a QuickBooks PDF over that's broken down. We're putting photos in there. We're really describing things. We're letting the customer understand, hey, this is exact process. And this is what differentiates us from the next guy that might, because there's been jobs where I've priced them at 35,000. Other people have priced 3,500. There's a massive quality of work thing there, So it's all about describing to that customer as well as presentation as well. We've noticed, and that's what's kept us going with these bigger projects. And people have taken trust within us because our presentation, how professional we are, we're always on time. We get there, you'll have your estimate within 24 hours of us meeting you. And that's something that we've always taken pride in, and that's what separated us from anybody else.
And I find that the excavation industry is literally, I mean, it's probably the easiest one to separate yourself from everybody else, because all you have to do is pick up the phone, send estimates in a timely manner, and show up when you say you're going to show up. And if you do those three things, you're like 90% ahead of the industry standard.
Exactly. And it's upsetting to try to work with subcontractors, because I do a lot of stuff where I subcontract work. I'd say a large majority of my business model is subcontracting work to other contractors in my area. And because I like the sales portion of it. I didn't want to build the infrastructure again of all the machines, and I like doing sales. I like doing marketing. Those are my really strong suits, and really logistics as well. And I started, when I got to Tennessee, I started renting machines and doing everything myself. I hired a guy, and eventually got to the point where I still had so much workload that I would hire other companies to say, hey, how much do you want for a day for you and your skid steer? And then it turned into, hey, like this is working pretty well. And next thing you know, I had a second crew running that wasn't even my guys, and I was just subbing out completely. And my margins were pretty close to the same as if I wasn't.
Yeah. Then you run into sometimes because you don't have as much control.
Exactly.
And then like if you find great guys, it works amazing. But if you get subpar guys, it's like it just creates more headaches.
Yeah, no, it does. I had my first bad experience. I had never had a bad experience. I usually have all the subs sign contracts and all that stuff. At this time, it was January of this year. I I had a contractor that I knew he was hurting. He had a lot of machine payments. He's got a lot of new equipment. And he was like, hey, man, if you have anything, I'll eat it up. Anything I can do for you. So I expedited the process of a project with a customer. And I wrote him a check. And I got a lot of good recommendations. And he showed up, and the weather didn't permit us to do the job for about 2 months, which I'm very understanding. And so was the customer. And he just, when he finally got open to being able to do larger profitable jobs, he sort of left me in the dust, just left me hanging there. And I ended up that the whole mistake of what the contractor did and how he took his approach to it, what he did to me, he ended up costing me. That was about a $50,000 mistake on that project there. And it's something that I'll take with me for a long time. And it's just, you have those things that happen sometimes, it is what it is. But
yeah, when you lose money on a project, that's the best education you can get, because you do not forget it.
It is. So
yeah, you definitely do not forget it.
You do not. I've had so many times where I've lost so much money. I can't even think about it. And it just is what it is. It's a learning experience. You take it on to the next one, and you can never let that hold you back. I've had times where I've let it upset me. I've let it really affect me. And it gets to the point where you just really need to be open to letting go any of the emotions that comes to everything to do with your business in a way when it comes to negatives, it's going to do nothing but hurt you.
Yeah. So you mentioned that sales and marketing is kind of your forte. And if you could pick, if you didn't have to go out into the field anymore, you still enjoy doing it, but if you could just focus on the sales and marketing, like that's where you would make the biggest impact in the business. I hear from so many guys like that's their weakness. Like they're much better operators than they are business owners in sales and marketing. So if you're fine with it, I would just love to talk a little bit about like your sales process. We'll get into prospecting and marketing later, but like as far as like the sales, like how do you handle your sales process? Do you have a framework or checklist that you work off of?
Yeah.
Like what, just kind of go over in detail so some of the people out there listening might be able to take some of these nuggets and implement it into their own business.
Yeah. So our first step is really marketing to the correct customer. So our first step is when they come through the door, we're instantly going to schedule a phone consultation to learn more about them and their project. Okay. And what we're going to do throughout this first call is we're going to screen them. We're going to find out, hey, where do they live? What's their address? Okay. While we're on the phone with them, we're Google Earthing their home. Okay. To see what does this house look like? What should we expect? Is it a single wide or is it a 10,000 square foot house? We're also going over, okay, what exactly are you expecting with the project? What kind of quality of work do you want? What do you want to accomplish? And really try to sort of get a budget out of them, which I know a lot of guys are very afraid to do that. But something we've always strived to do is really understand, okay, what is the customer comfortable with spending? Because every situation is different. And what exactly are they looking to get out of it? Do they want a short-term fix? Do they, whatever the case is. So that's the first call, is really figuring out and screening them. Okay. And then we're going to schedule an estimate with them, and we're going to figure out, okay, when works best for us in the office, when works best for them, get them on the schedule. We use Trello, which is a very good tool. So everybody could see it. And we move our customers over in phases. Okay. Need to schedule call, need to schedule estimate, do screening call, whatever the case is, estimate scheduled. And we do that along the whole process that I'll tell you about. And pretty much we get them completely structured, and then we get over to their property. We meet them. We try to look as formal as we can. We're always early. We will never be late to an estimate. We are there at least 10 minutes early, because that shows them that we have the respect for them and their time, and that we're serious about what we're trying to do. Okay. The other thing too is our phones never don't ring. I leave my phone on all the time. And if a customer reaches out to me at 12 o'clock at night, they're getting a phone call back immediately. And so after we do our formal estimate, we understand what they want. We really take into consideration, listen to them, encourage them, what they want. And then we go back and we're immediately formulating that estimate. Obviously, on a job that's massive or is a 90,000 cut fill, you're not going to be able to get them an estimate in 24 hours. But on a residential realm with all of these residential customers, there's no reason you shouldn't be able to get a customer a number within 24 hours, because you should know all your pricing in your area, whether that be for your block, your culverts, whatever the case is, whatever you're doing at that time, your stone, etc. You should know your quantities, you should know your markup, and you should be able to have that estimate to them within 24 hours. And that will show them that you are really serious about doing that project, as well as the presentation of your estimate as well. If you're just going to write down on a napkin and leave it in Jenny's mailbox, I promise you, even if I'm $10,000 higher than you, the estimate format that I'm going to send over, I've had times where guys have bid jobs $10,000, $15,000 lower than me, but we went above and beyond with our estimating process and our estimate, and we landed those projects. So it's very, very important to have a very good picture set out for your customer. And so they can understand, hey, what am I paying for? What am I receiving? What exactly does this estimate entail versus the competitor that might be cheaper? And that's definitely a key point.
I I completely agree with everything you just said. In fact, when I work with excavation company owners, we call it the pre-qualification. Like your first phone call to me is the pre-qualification phase.
Yep.
You know, if you're asking for the address so you can go look at the project, you're like, I don't care if you're a small business owner in an excavation industry or Jeff Bezos, it's the same 24 hours. Nobody gets more.
Exactly.
Right? And you have to safeguard your time. So the pre-qualifying questions to me is probably the most important thing that any business owner can do in this industry.
For sure. Yeah, it's extremely important because you got to think, you have your guys working on a project, you are going out of your way, driving maybe 30 minutes each way, an hour each way. That's a substantial amount of time, not including fuel burn, but what's getting messed up at the job site you're not at is the question. What is the real cost of you going to do that estimate? So really making sure that your customer is a potential customer you want and are excited to take on is a huge factor when it comes to estimating. And a lot of guys miss that out and waste a lot of time.
They totally do. And you said it exactly right. Like, not only is it, can they pay me? It's, do I want to work with them?
For sure.
Because the last thing you want is a guy that's going to call you 6 times a day for the next 3 months over every tiny little thing.
Exactly.
And you can feel that out. If you ask enough questions up front, you can get a good feel for the person you're talking to. And your gut will tell you, yeah, this is the guy I want to work with, or I'm just too busy this season. Let me give you some recommendations for some other guys.
Yeah. And another thing I would say too is being knowledgeable about what you're talking about. You know, you could wing some stuff, but other things you really need to understand the industry. You need to understand the proper techniques because you're going to go up head to head with ideas and plans against other contractors that are coming out to price that job. So you need to have the most sensible idea and plan to take that project on and price it correctly where you're not making the customer spend more than they need to in the first place. You're giving them the perfect medium where you're happy and they're happy and they're getting everything they need the first time the right way. And that's what a lot of customers don't understand. A lot of guys don't understand is I always price every single job that to be done the right way the first time where it will not need to be redone ever. It will not need to be touched again. And that's where our pricing comes into play. And if customers don't like that, then I just wash my hands. That's no problem.
They're not a good fit for you the way for your values and your brand and your vision. So yeah, exactly true. And I would expand on that just a smidge. Because I've seen a lot of guys that they give the detail to the customer, but they use industry specific jargon and it goes right over the customer's head.
Yeah. You have to super simplify it, you know, and I've had times where I say, hey, imagine it's a bowl right here. Okay. And this is exact stuff like that, you know, so don't be afraid to really dim it down, you know, and make it a lot as simple as you can, you know, and just like as if you're explaining it to your 6-7-year-old cousin, you know, or whatnot the case is. That's a good example that I like to use. And you'd be surprised how far that will go.
So I've said this a couple of times. I've actually gotten feedback from some guys that did it. And they're like, well, you're actually right. But I'm like, if you're not sure a customer's going to understand your estimate, have your wife read it.
For sure.
And if she can't understand it, your customer can't understand it. And I've had guys call me and go, man, you were spot on. Like she couldn't understand what I was trying to get done in the estimate. And so I had to go back and rewrite it. And we ended up closing the deal. I'm like, you got to keep it simple. There's a reason instruction manuals are written at a 4th grade reading level.
For sure.
It's so everybody can get it. And like, sometimes you got to think of yourself as talking to a child using clear, easy to understand words. And I love what you just said, like, imagine this is a bowl, like find things that they can associate to that you can describe the project to.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome, man. I think you've got an amazing sales process and that I like to call everything in frameworks. Like the questions might be different from a septic system installation company to a road builder to this, but the pre-qualification phase should not change. Like that framework should be step 1.
Yep. Right. That's the biggest part of it. Time and money.
As quickly as you were able to like pop through all those things, like you can tell that you've got a really good framework as far as pre-qual to the estimate, to the quality of the estimate. And you've got some non-negotiables of showing up early, having the estimate within 24 hours. And those are things that not only does the customer like, but those are things that I've found that as you grow your team, and if you do that day in and day out, you're going to attract people that want to work in that environment and you weed out the tire kickers. Yeah,
no, for sure. And another huge thing I always made to be a point is no trash on site. even if it was getting buried. Trash, no, big no-go, no disrespecting property, nothing like that. That's always been a huge thing for me, and customers have seemed to like that. So that's one thing I always try to make sure, because we'll see guys, they just throwing stuff everywhere. The customer doesn't.
So how many guys do you have working for you right now, like that are actually part of your company?
So right now there's 4 of us, and we're mainly just office workers. Everybody at this point is just subcontractors. Everybody's flat day rates when it comes to the work side of everything. I still pick up a good amount of work when I can, when I do have time to get in the machines, but it gets extremely busy with what we do online, as well as what we're doing actually in the excavation world. We're starting to sort of tone back on how much dirt work we're taking on, just because we've been so focused on our online presence, and really how much the development with all of the spreadsheet and all that stuff. That's been a real key factor with us. But we have James. He's an estimator. He went to school for estimating. He's who I spoke about earlier. Started my first business with him. We have Giuseppe, which he focuses on sales, as well as he does all of our website development. He does all kinds of stuff like that. Very good kid that I went to school with. Same with James, and we've all stuck together all throughout this time. And it's been a really good time.
Awesome. So let's talk about that just a little bit. So you've got some online tools that you offer to people in the excavation industry to help them grow their business, in addition to running your own excavation company.
Yes, sir.
So I know what I've seen online myself. You said it was just a small portion of what you guys are trying to accomplish.
Yes, sir.
Like you've got an estimating spreadsheet that helps create more accurate estimates and not miss little details, so you don't lose money. Let's talk about that for just a few seconds.
Yeah. So the estimating system that we built it for ourselves originally. It was very simplified. It was just a Google sheet. And it was sort of hard to understand from anybody else's perspective. But for us in the office, we understood, hey, this is our mobilization here. This is exactly this line item and whatnot, and how to do all the math on it. But what we created pretty much is a massive page. It's a spreadsheet with about 10 different pages in it, and all of the data pulls from all different sections of pages. So you have like a master machine catalog. So we have over 450 machines right now. You input your rental rates if you don't own those machines, and that determines your hourly rate, along with fuel consumption, all of your DEF consumption. You put your operator cost, every expendable expense that you're going to put out on that machine. You could really dial in on your overhead cost per hour on each machine, because a lot of guys don't understand, hey, what's my cost per hour on this machine? Your machine payment might be $1,500, whatnot. How much is it depreciating? How much is your interest along with that? How much is it going to cost you to replace that machine? And how much is the maintenance costing you every hour? Because that's what slips over a lot of guys' heads. So what it is it's a massive calculator of all your materials, all of your cost, all your tonnage cost, you name it, any material that you could think of in excavations there, main water line, import, export. All of your costs are broken down as far as they can, from your overhead, your business, to your overhead for your machines, your hourly cost on each machine. And pretty much, let's say you're doing 5 acres of clearing. You input 5 acres of clearing, density, least dense, most dense, ease of access, all of this information, how you're mobilizing these machines there. You're moving it, what machine are you going to use? What attachment are you going to use? How are you going to move that machine there? It's doing all the math on the back end of, hey, this machine costs X amount per hour. The gooseneck in the truck costs X amount per hour to run. This is what we need to get. This is exactly what our mobilization is going to be. This is exactly what the machine cost breakdown is going to be. And at the same time as it's doing all your math for you and calculating your markup, you could adjust all your markup however much you want it to be, percentage wise. And it converts it right over into a formal estimate for your customer. So you're not sitting there every estimate writing and typing, hey, what's going to sound best for this customer? What is going to be easiest for them to understand? That line item's pre-built inside of your spreadsheet. And then pretty much all you're doing is saving it as a PDF, and you're sending it over. And it's 5 pages. It's the smallest 5 pages. It has contract within it. It has everything. You just input all their information, auto fills into the contract. Everything that you could think of is this sheet is doing for you. And we're setting it up so you never have to pay monthly ever again. We're going to be selling it at $1,500 one-time fee. You own it for your entirety of your life, and you'll never have to pay again for anything. And that's one thing that for me, when I first started, I paid for softwares that are $150, $300 a month, which is crazy, So what we want to do is add as much value, because it's the most information and data that's ever been put out on the excavation world, for a fact, that you could just purchase and onboard yourself. And for us alone to build it was a pretty penny. That's all I'll say. It took us a lot of money.
Yes. When you start getting spreadsheets, talking to each other and pulling data from here and doing that, and then you got to because you always have one component that breaks in the middle and you have no idea where it's at and you got to go through. I totally get it. So if somebody's out here listening to this and like, hey, I want to learn more about this spreadsheet, where can they find it?
So you can head over to 316excavating.com and hop on scale with us. And that's a portion of the website. You can watch a whole video. It's about 6 minutes long on YouTube regarding how the sheet works and completely understanding what it could do for you and how all the aspects of what it works. And there's a lot more information and videos that we do on it inside of our group on Facebook. It's called Excavating, Estimating, and Engagement. It's a completely free group on Facebook. We have about 3,500 business owners as of now. And every person that comes into the group is screened. We make sure they are some way, shape, or form involved in our business. And pretty much we always put on free webinars. We usually do 1 or 2 a month, and we really strive. They're always on Sundays. We offer them completely for free. We do everything we do estimating courses, overhead courses, how to do like GPS and survey, like how to learn and understand lasers and GPS and reading survey stakes and all kinds of other tools completely for free that I really wish I had when I was coming up in the game. Because if I had this information, the stuff I'm trying to put in front of other people, it would have excelled my business to other levels that I can't even think about right now.
Absolutely, it is. And in today's world, like if you take the time, there's something out there, but it's like, is it a reliable source? Is it credible? And it just takes a lot of time. So to be able to have one place that you can go to and connect with other business owners and do all that. So we have the Skid Steer Nation community Facebook page, and there's like 27,000 people in there. And I'll tell you right now, that's too many people. It's a nightmare to manage.
It's a full-time job.
Oh God, I've got one person like that's half their job is managing who comes in, and then edit. Like if I have one more guy say, send me over your logo and I'll redesign it with pictures of logos. It's becoming the death of me. These guys that want logos.
And that's one thing about our group that's nice is you'll never see an advertisement for a machine sale. You'll never see an advertisement for anybody doing those or anything that they're trying to take anything from you. All it is in that group is a networking site where you're going to be able to ask questions, whether you're 16 or you're 65, and you want to ask questions about, hey, what do I do in this situation? How should I price this job? What are your guys' experience? This is what you're going to find in there. And we do put our information for our sheets in the marketing classes and some of the other things we are doing, but we're not pushing it to you. It's there if you want it and you want to access that technology and that information to be able to utilize in your business. But if you don't, you're more than welcome to come completely for free, join, learn, come into our free classes that we hold quite often, and just really be a part of the community and learn with us, grow with us, and help other people,
Awesome, man. I'm going to make sure that we put that link to that Facebook group in our show notes. So if you're listening to this, just look at the description of the episode and you should be able to find the link to there to go and access it and join his community. I think I'm already in it, actually. I think I've already joined your group. So
awesome.
So yeah, very cool. And then you also offer teaching of Facebook ads.
Yes.
So how long have you been doing Facebook ads?
I've been doing Facebook ads pretty much since the very beginning. So when I was 16 and I was mowing lawns, I saved up enough money. I had probably about $5,000 at the time saved, and I contracted with a marketing company that was local to me, and I was paying them, I believe, $1,300 a month to generate me leads. And I mostly was only doing Facebook and a little bit of Google. And to be completely honest with you, they generated me not a single lead for 3 months. And that was a lot of money for me back then. That was substantial growth for me and my business. And then I had Angie's leads. They stole probably about $1,600 or $1,700 from me. And I would get extremely upset. I would sit there at night and I'd be like, what do I need to do? How do I need to get out there? I was putting yard signs up. I was doing everything, door knockers, not everything that I could do to try to get myself in front of somebody I was doing. And I started researching Facebook ads. So I started running my first ad, and I would spend $150 here and $250 there. And before you know it, I was understanding, hey, I was playing with it. What works best for me? And over the past 5 years, I've spent over $150,000 on Facebook ads. And I have done so well with Facebook. 90% of our work comes off of Facebook. The other 10% is return customers and word of mouth and stuff like that. But I always get higher end customers off Facebook because you're projecting yourself to your customer, and your customer's not coming to you where they're shopping for 5 other estimates in a lot of cases, I've noticed. And Facebook's such a good platform. And the whole point of what we we do with the class is really to teach everyone how to do it themselves without ever having to outsource it to a marketing company again. So if you're a smaller residential contractor, you're not at the point where you're doing a couple $1 million worth of revenue and you could afford to outsource that section of your business to a marketing company. You come into one of our classes and we'll teach you everything start to finish, everything that you'll need from structuring your post, doing all the actual structuring of how to get in front of the right audiences, how to do all your characteristics, interests, demographics, and never have to, like I said, outsource it ever again. So that's going to save you anywhere from $500 to $1,000 a month all day. And that's the whole point is do it yourself, do it the right way, and save money at the same time.
Yeah. So when I used to run a manufacturing company, I was like the president of a manufacturing company, and we kind of had that structured to the point where it didn't require me to work 50 hours a week. Like the guys were in the right places and the place kind of ran itself and you just had to do your check-ins. So I actually, with our head of marketing, we created an ad agency and we did Facebook leads for years for businesses. And then when I started Skid Steer Nation, I didn't know Facebook ads for e-commerce. So I hired a guy and paid him, I think I paid him $1,000 a month for 4 hours of one-on-one training a month. And I did that for 3 months. And at the end of that training, I was like, you know what? How much for you just to run it? Because it was going to be a full-time job because we typically have 20 to 40 ads running at a time. And it was too much for me to manage and run the business. So yeah, it's like, I think we probably spend just on Facebook alone, probably $60,000-$70,000 a year.
For sure.
So and I tell people all the time that they go, Facebook ads doesn't work for me. And I'm like, let me guess. You took one post, you boosted it for $50. Nobody called you. And now Facebook sucks. Nope. He got called away for work there for a second. So
sorry about that.
No problem, man. Day in the life in the office, right?
Yes, sir.
So no, but like properly understanding how to set that up and like creating multiple copies, multiple images, multiple headlines, understanding the demographics, the locations, how to exclude things. And if I know it's tough for somebody to log into the business manager in the ad and look at that and try to figure it out, it's so much easier just to boost a post. But that's how your shit gets seen in West Virginia when you're in Tennessee. When you do the boosting, like you've got to go in there and structure the ads properly.
Exactly. You select that advantage audience and drop that pin 25 miles from your house, man. You're basically throwing singles out the window as you're driving down the highway. So the whole point of you with the class, again, is just really to make it so you're not wasting your money. You're not spending where it doesn't need to be. You're getting in front of the right customer base. We're trying to get you in front of higher value people and really teach you how, like I said, the biggest thing is to do it yourself so you never have to pay a marketing company again. We charge $900 for the class. It includes contracts, templates, with the estimates, actually. We give you formal estimate templates of how your estimates could look if you want to use our system. You get a contract that I spent way too much money having lawyers write for a customer contract. It's about 5 pages long. You get that complete for free with the class. You get 24/7 help as well. If you have any issues, I log into guys' accounts all the time. I get them completely squared away. Any mistakes that they've made, get them situated. So I'm always here to help. And you have the ability to, if you pay for it with your business, if you hire an office lady or someone down the road and you want to have them join into a class and learn, they're more than welcome to join in completely for free down the road.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, it's like we do a coaching program also through Skid Steer Nation, and like that doesn't need to be talked about today, but this is the market that's severely underserved, the excavation industry, because the people that do like general coaching or general marketing, they know so little about the workflow and the customers and what goes in your day to day that you spend more time teaching them. You know, like every time you talk to a contractor that's got a marketing company they're hiring, they come out to the job site, the first hour and a half is them like, oh, can I drive the skid steer? What does this thing do? How does that work? And like, no, we're here to do marketing, not teach you what a machine is.
Exactly. And that's what stands out with us, because like I'm within the industry. This is what I did for work and I still do to this day. It's just really, the difference is it's not somebody that doesn't understand the industry. They don't understand what the customers are going to be. They don't understand what you're looking for within a customer. So that's really what makes us stand out for sure.
Yep, absolutely, man. And it's good to see that this industry is starting to get some of that push from people that are giving back and offering. And I like that you charge money for things. Like the free classes are nice, but I would do what I do for free, but you got to have that buy-in. Like you got to know that this guy's going to actually follow through and do it. And you're not wasting your time. It's like safeguarding your time by actually charging.
For sure. Yeah. We never have been a big charger on estimates or anything like that. But obviously that's what supply and demand. If you're super busy and you're booked out 6 months, then yeah, charge for your estimate.
No, I'm talking about your education services and all of that.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
if you just give
Oh,
it
I'm sorry.
away, people just don't do anything with it.
For sure.
It's just
Yeah,
another,
no,
it's just like another YouTube video. But if they pay you some money, they follow through.
no, for sure. I've seen that as well, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of people out there, especially in remodeling world, that are talking about having people pay for estimates. And I see the pros and the cons of that. I think if you just pre-qualify properly, there's no need to charge for an estimate because you should have a close rate through the roof. Yeah. So you should have a close rate through the roof.
My closing rates are right, I would say, but I definitely price a lot higher than a lot of people in our area. So we lose a lot of work to lower bidders.
Yeah, but that's okay. I mean, if you get into a war over price, it's just a quick race to zero. You can't, like, that's it. That's it. So I always tell people, slam pack it with value, charge what you're worth, the margins you need to make or want to make. And if somebody doesn't want to do business with you, tell them that's okay.
We tell everybody it's no rush. It's whenever you're ready, whenever you're situated, whenever you know the time is right. We've had people that have watched the process over the past 6-7 months, and now they're coming around. They're saying, "Hey, we've followed along. We've seen all the great reviews you've had, all the great things people are saying, how you service them, and how well you've been treating these guys." And that stuff really fulfills me. I will tell you, like, overall, like everything else I've done when it comes to excavation, lawn care, and like all the things I've achieved on that realm have never really truly like gotten me super, I would say fulfilled. But this time, like with this stuff, it really fulfills me seeing me being able to help others, if that makes sense. And like, it's really cool.
Zach, we're cut from the same cloth, man, because doing these podcast interviews is actually my favorite part of the week. Cause like, there's no ask at the end of this, right? We're just having a great conversation. And like, so you're not positioning yourself like, all right, when's he going to ask me to spend money or something? So that makes it my favorite part. But like doing some consulting with some customers and stuff and seeing them smile when they learn something new or make an improvement in their business, it's actually, I would rather do that than succeed in my own business, as wild as it sounds. So you and I are cut from the same cloth.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy to see like all the posts that are made in the group and people say, "Hey, I spent $1,100 on ads in the past 30 days and I've generated $40,000 worth of extra work." Or we had one guy that was only doing $2,000-$3,000 jobs all the time. He landed like $150,000 worth of work in 1 month off just because we got him in front of the right people. And like, I was just like, holy moly, like that's awesome. Like this is life changing for this guy, and
100%.
It's pretty crazy to know, hey, I had a factor in that and I was able to help him, and seeing that is very, very fulfilling. It really is.
Yep, I couldn't agree even more, man. It's what fills my cup. It's truly the reason why we started the podcast. It's because there's so many guys out there that struggle. Like every time I talk to a guy about attachments on the phone, we end up talking about his business. So I was like, let's just do a podcast where we interview guys where we can talk about the successes, the losses, the failures, the struggles, because all of that you can learn from. And then, so we get messages all the time about people thanking me for the podcast. I listened to this thing in one episode and I tried it and I've already seen an improvement in my business. And that makes my day. Nothing makes me happier than when people actually use the information that we're talking about to improve themselves.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. We're actually setting up to do a podcast with Trey Bohannon. He's on TikTok. We're going to have Austin Starnes, Diggett Starnes on TikTok on it, myself, and a couple other guys. And we're excited. We're going to be doing the first ever one, hopefully this weekend. So hopefully we're able to post that up and add some value as well.
Awesome, man. Good for you. That's exciting stuff. Well, I don't want to cannibalize your time. We've been talking for about almost an hour now, right? 45 minutes.
What was that? I'm sorry.
I don't want to cannibalize your time. I know you've probably got a lot more work to do. We've been talking now for 45 minutes to an hour, and I just want to be polite of your time. We've covered a lot of topics today. You've got a lot of cool things going on. I'm excited to follow you and see your growth in that. And if there's anything we can ever do on our end to help you or be there for you guys, don't ever hesitate to reach out. And again, if you're interested more in his Facebook group, you can find that in the show notes, the link to it, and you can join in and see his free webinars and classes that he does on Sundays. So, Zach, thanks so much for being on the show. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day today and being here.
Yes, sir. Well, I appreciate you having me, and feel free to reach out anytime if you need anything as well.
I sure will, my man. Well, guys, that's another wrap for another episode of the Skid Steer Nation podcast. Again, if you're looking for attachments, head over to skidsteernation.com. We only partner with family-owned American manufacturers that put quality over profits. So these things we have vetted these manufacturers. We have tested their products. We stand behind them, even though we don't manufacture them. So we have done the homework for you. So you don't have to wonder if it comes from China or made from cheap steel. These things are built right. We only work with partners that meet our standards. So skidsteernation.com for all of your skid steer attachment needs. We'll see you at the next episode.